elder. He was a Dutch Renaissance painter who is famous for many paintings and printmakings. I chose to do the visual timeline of his works, and these are the works that I will be discussing. The first work is the Netherlandish Proverbs, which was painted in approximately 1559. This is an oil painting, and which allows for more details in both the foreground and the background. It's a display of proverbs in human surroundings and is set in a quaint village. This was constructed to discuss the spirituality at the time and was overall known to be a satirical piece, which was common in many of his pieces, mocking human nature, such as the people in the windows and also the people with the animals on the ground. This is also set in the Netherlands, which was his home country, and the huts and various animals highlight the simplistic time. The next painting is The Triumph of Death. This is also an oil painting and is known as a danse macabre, which shows fragility of life and young death, which in this sense meant death because of the Black Plague, which took many lives, and in a way, the triumph of death it suggested that death was an achievement to put one out of their suffering rather than punishment. This showed the suffering, pain, and agony at a young age, and skeletons among the newly deceased show foreshadowing and loss of life and their future to be dimmed into the background. The color contrast with people in the foreground and the background show focus between the colorful clothes they're wearing in the foreground with the rural setting in the background, and which also suggests that their fate to blend in with their surroundings. And the skeletons can also foreshadow for themselves what there is to come, and which further shows their future of blending in with the background. The next one I chose is the Tower of Babel, which was painted in approximately 1563. This is also an oil painting, which shows detailing not only in the tower itself, but also in the background and the people in front. The focal point is the tower, and the foreground shows people and contrasts them against the large tower and shows their insignificance. This is one of Bruegel's most famous paintings, and the tower itself is said to have been built in Babylonia. This picture is actually when it's being constructed, and when it's not yet finished. The story of it is derived from Genesis in the Bible, so it's religious. It has a religious connotation, and the tower, in this way, the tower signifies a gate to the heavens, showing that the higher it goes, the closer you are to heaven and to God. It also shows the struggle between goals and pride in mankind, which can be shown by the smaller, insignificant people amid the large tower. And this also, for the people, represents the need to ultimately succeed in life in order to be accepted by God in the future. The next painting is The Hunters in the Snow, which is painted in approximately 1565. This is an oil on wood painting and is one of Bruegel's landscape paintings. Unlike the last painting, this shows life and prosperity, and unlike the triumph of death, it shows prosperity even in cold months. The gray hues contrast the white snow in the foreground, and the fire in the left quadrant shows perseverance despite the cold. The birds represent a carefree setting in the sky, as do the ice skaters down in the background. Details highlight the scene and how the hunters in the foreground may be unhappy in their own lives, despite the people ice skating in the background. Because of their stance, we can most likely infer that the hunters were unsuccessful or were not able to were not successful this day, because otherwise they would probably be shown with their with meat or whatever they had gotten that day. And this shows the greater theme of personal emotion overshadowing the perception of a scene as a whole. The next painting is the Peasant Wedding, which is known as a genre painting. It shows peasants in a wedding ceremony and can also signify Bruegel's perspective of a peasant wedding, even though he's not a peasant himself. The true meaning of this painting is actually widely unknown, but from what we can see, it could be either to mock the peasants for their way of celebration or just to show what it was like. The bride is shown in front of a green cloth in the background, which is following the Flemish or Dutch customs at the time. The daylight coming in the upper left quadrant shows the opportunity for more people to come in and also just the opportunity in general given the wedding. The long table represents communion and general affinity for the couple because with everyone eating together and all in close proximity, it shows that their unity just to come together for the couple. The colors of blue and green are contrasted against the brown and red background to highlight both the man in the front and the bride in front of the green tapestry, which are the two main focal points of this piece. The next painting is the Census at Bethlehem, which was painted in approximately 1566. This is an oil painting and shows a village inundated with snow, and the villagers are seen to be going about their daily lives and not really disrupted that much by the snow. So the tax gatherer's office is what's shown in the front, up the bottom left corner, and cottages are seen in the background and in like the upper right quadrant. The landscape of wintry conditions makes this work interesting because it shows the difference between everyday life and the bustle of everyday life contrasted with the pure snow that is not yet touched. Also, this painting itself is meant to show a biblical event where Joseph and Mary come to engage in their civil tax-paying duties, like we can see many of the people doing in here as well. The next painting is Children's Games, which is painted in approximately 1560. This is also an oil painting that allows for small details to be seen in the background, and vibrant colors in choice of clothing and also the water follow a blue and red color scheme against the brown background. If you separate this painting into quadrants, we can see that there's a lot of small activity in each area. So in the upper left quadrant, the children are pretending to be in a wedding, and we can see that they're playing with hula hoops in the bottom of the painting. The varying objects and sizes blurs the lines between the foreground and the background in the painting. So each child is, for the most part, represented equally, and we can very well tell what each of them is doing, and just even though they're all doing different things, and this gives it continuity. And this piece focuses on, just like I said, the carefree nature of kids and the way that they can be entertained among themselves, even without adults or just any sort of structure in their lives. This painting is known as The Harvesters, which was painted in about 1565. This is an oil painting and a genre painting of a landscape. We're able to see the people prominent in the foreground, and they seem to be tired, resting, or working at this point, and this shows this color contrast between the hay in the foreground and the lush green in the background also shows the difference between the village people and also the farmers, and it shows how they live a world different from the people in the village. The next painting is The Gloomy Day, which is an oil painting, and it's part of the series that includes the previous painting, The Harvesters. However, it's a depiction of a different month and time, this one being in January. This shows the aftermath of the harvest and prosperous fall months, which fell right before this winter. And in the background, we can see choppy waters, which is signified by white in the water, and we're able to see that this shows us that there would be instability in the weather, and also people coming into this area it would be very dangerous. And So the people in the forefront also are shown in white, which is a good contrast against the melancholy background, and it shows that it drags the viewer's eye towards them and shows that they're actually trying to chop down trees, which could signify that their goal to build up the village and prosper in the future. The last painting is the Land of Kakhan, and which was painted in about 1567, and this is an oil painting. This was one of Bruegel's last paintings, and it was known to be, this land itself in Dutch literature was known to be a land of corpulence and plentiful resources. So with doing nearly little to no work, people would always be full and would never be hungry or thirsty or anything. And the corpulent figures shown in the forefront show the consequence and potential warning of having anything one could desire. As we're able to see, they look like they have eaten too much and just general unrest. The orange hue overshadows the painting and represents gluttony amid the food scraps scattered about the ground. And these are the citations. So Peter Bruegel had lots of paintings throughout his life, all of which fell into the category of either oil paintings or genre paintings. And he used this to show different scenes and also tie the people into the backgrounds so that he could display greater themes.